For this season finale of Back to the City, I'm honoured to be joined by Charlie PARR. Welcome, Charlie.
Thank you very much for having me, Simon.
You're very welcome indeed. Charlie was with us in the Minnehaha Recording Company yesterday, and he played a song which is available only on a limited edition record that came out for Record Day last year, I Ain't Dead Yet. So that song is called Jaybird. That will be performed midway through the episode. Let's go to the Minnehaha Recording Company to start today's episode with the song Goin' Down Slow. Here's Charlie PARR performing Goin' Down Slow.
Well, I had my fun. If I don't get well no more, I had my fun, Lord. If I don't get well no more, my health is failing me, mama. Believe I'm going down slow. Right, my mother, to the shape I'm in. I want you to ride my mother to the shape I'm in. Tell her pray for me, forgiveness for all my sins. Next train south, look for my clothes home. Next train south, look for my clothes home. You don't find my body, all you can do is moan. I believe my time ain't long. I believe my time ain't long. I'm gonna pack my little suitcase, down the road I'm going. Well, I had my fun. I don't get well no more. I had my fun, Lord. I don't get well no more. My health is failing me, mama. I'm going down slow.
Welcome back to the duplex. That was Going Down Slow. The first cover of Going Down Slow was Ray Charles.
Was it?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he was 17, I believe. And there's been lots of covers, including Bob Dylan.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Of which versions is yours most inspired by?
My take on it is mostly from Mance Lipscomb.
Okay.
My dad had an Arhoolie record in the house when I was a kid of Mance Lipscomb, and it was on there. And it's one of my favorite blues songs, I guess.
Yeah.
Folk blues songs. I've been playing it in some fashion or another ever since I could figure it out when I was, a kid. There's certain songs like Going Down Slow and Ragged and Dirty that I knew how to play them from the time I was a teenager, but, it's hard to fully kind of inhabit, even, you know how to play it, but there's knowing how to play it, and then there's kind of getting comfortable with those kinds of songs,
Yeah.
And being able to inject your own voice into them, which I never felt like I was able to do.
Yeah.
Until the last few years, when Going Down Slow and Ragged and Dirty returned to my kind of repertoire.
Yeah.
And I felt more like I was able to add something to them. And ironically, a lot of it, last year I was in Northampton, and I met a young guitar player named Eli Catlin, who I think is fantastic, an amazing guitar player, and he gave me a CD, and his take on Going Down Slow is brilliant.
What was his take?
He takes it more into like American primitive kind of guitar stylings, kind of John Fahey, Leo Kottke world, but then insinuates the lyrics into that landscape or soundscape, whatever. I thought it was brilliant. I don't do that, but it reminded me of how much I love that song, and it brought it back into my set list, and I've been playing it almost every time I have a show now. It's a comfort now, whereas before it felt less comfortable and more like an oversized shoe.
Yeah. Alan Sporhawk has said of you that he could tell that you spent the time to really become the music. That was his impression, I think, before then inviting you to tour with the Black Eyed Snakes in London and England, which of course you're about to return to Europe.
Yeah.
It seems like sometime last year you felt this process of becoming with these particular songs that you've performed in the Minnehaha Recording Company. There is, I think, an affinity with, say, the song Hobo, which we can hear at the moment, which is the opening track on the new record Dog, which we'll be delving into today as well.
I want my son to have this when I'm dead. It's a book I always start, but I'd never read.
I feel that the character in the song Hobo and also in I Ain't Dead Yet seems to be a not dissimilar character.
Yeah, I think that's fair. That music played in my house from when I was born.
Yeah.
Even though it was playing all the time. The first time I heard it was when I was about 7. These folk blues records my dad had, there was only 3 of them. His record collection was a weird shambolic thing, but there was only 3 records of that ilk. A lot of the other records were really old country western and folk music, from Jimmy Rogers and the Carter Family to Woody Guthrie, Leadbelly, and on through Johnny Cash and Merle Haggard, so it was all in, a country-ish vein. But when I was 7, I really woke up to it and started listening very carefully, and to those specific records that moved me the most, which were like Mance Lipscomb and Lightnin' Hopkins, those were the records that really, really jarred my senses.
Yeah. It must have seemed like a very oversized shoe when you were 7.
Oh my God! Well, I couldn't play, and I wanted to play so bad.
Yeah.
And I wanted to make those sounds. I wanted to sound like that.
Yeah.
And when I was able to get a hold of a guitar and found how frustrating it was, that obviously these guys weren't playing with a pick. They weren't strumming out chords, They weren't making chords. They were playing bits and pieces of chords. They weren't playing in any kind of regular tuning most of the time, Or if they were, it was not really recognizable. I found, in my experience anyway, sitting down in front of the stereo speakers and retuning my guitar until I found it sounded like that, then your guitar wasn't really in tune with like standard pitch anyway, because they didn't tune that way. So it was frustrating and long, arduous process. I didn't have access to a lot of records, and Austin is a small town, and folk music and blues music wasn't kind of the town stock and trade as far as what people were listening to around town. So the library was great. The second floor of the library had a ton of records and had blues records and folk records, so I could go and pillage the library's collection and find stuff.
And that's where you discovered the Anthology of American Folk Music?
The anthology was there.
Yeah.
Just tons of stuff was there. Now we've got access to everything. You turn on your phone and there's the music of the world forever, all of it right there. When I was a kid, I had access to a lot more than, say, heroes of mine like Dave Ray and Spider John had. So I, was very lucky in that sense. I did have a lot more access, but it was still, you found records that you found, and then I obsessed over them and listened to them over and over and over again. When I was a teenager, my sister kind of turned me on to the generation of rock musicians who had been influenced by the anthology, Jerry Garcia, for example, and the Grateful Dead. The first couple of Led Zeppelin records, Captain Beefheart, the Rolling Stones, stuff like that. And I was super fascinated by their take on it. Then later I found that there was a whole, another school of folk musicians in the 60s, like Dave Van Ronk, that were also influenced by that earliest generation of recorded music. And their information about it all came as a wellspring to me. The point I'm trying to make is I love digging into not only that generation of the first recorded music, but hearing what everybody else does with it all along the road. I think is as legitimate and as authentic as the first generation of recorded music.
What would you say are some defining features of the way in which you perform the song that make it your authentic performance of the song?
I think that has a lot to do with just living in it. You know, playing it over and over again, being obsessed with it, holding it to be as sacred as it is. Yeah. And understanding that. And eventually, I think that the shoe either fits or it never will fit. I mean, I'm never going to get a hold of certain songs ever in my life, and I have a full understanding of that. I'm not really sure who will get a hold of certain songs like Patton's Prayer of Death, for example. Not too many people have covered that song because I don't think that's a shoe that's going to fit many people.
As a 7-year-old, it seems like the distinctive guitar playing is what struck you about the song. But I feel now like the emotional weight of the lyrics as well, and the manner in which this song is exploring mortality and the relationship between the voice and the mother character. To what extent do you think those things struck you when you were first listening to this song and becoming obsessed with it? And what do those things mean to you as you're deciding to cover it now?
I think when I first heard the song, what I heard the most was Mance's guitar style. And I don't think that understanding the lyrics really came until much later. I mean, understanding them in the significance that they actually are.
Yes, the full weight of the lyrics.
A lot of that music, in that song in particular, there's an atmosphere that surrounds the song that's like way more than just the song and the lyrics that I don't think that I'll ever fully grasp. Even though I'm feeling like I've kind of gotten to a point where I can sit down and play the song and feel like I'm contributing something to its lineage, however small. The song's atmosphere is thick, and I'm not there.
My little suitcase, down the road I'm going.
It's interesting that the song does make this indirect address to the mother. The character is asking someone else to give a report, to give an account of the character to the character's mother.
Which is not uncommon either in religious history or in folk music history. In religious history, we're asking for someone to intercede on our behalf. A lot of the times, in the Catholic tradition anyway. In folk music, you find again and again, particularly with the mother, ask my mother to pray for me, or I came upon my mother and she was praying on my behalf, or my mother is has passed on. When you go, asking a friend, when you go to heaven, for example, find my mother and ask her to say something on my behalf. That notion of like someone to speak on my behalf comes up again and again in folk blues songs, even lamenting that there is no one to speak on my behalf. Kansas Joe, there's a song called My Washwoman's Gone, which is a silly song and it's kind of tawdry, but in the early verses, he says that. He says, I have no one to speak on my behalf. And so in the midst of this kind of tawdry, blue song, he's still bringing it up.
I live in a cave deep in the woods.